Recording started. Wonderful. Okay, Sam. So I'm going to be just asking you a whole bunch of questions, and yeah, just respond freely and candidly. No,
Okay.
don't hold anything back.
Okay, I will do.
Great. All right. So first question: where do you live?
In the UK, South Coast,
Okay.
uh, in a town called Andover.
All right. And what do you like to do for fun?
Cycling, baking, photography,
Mm-hmm.
uh, that sort of thing. Watching movies.
Awesome.
Uh,
Are you,
yeah,
you mentioned baking. Are you doing any sort of big baking for the holidays?
yeah. I've just baked some gingerbread. Literally just finished.
Awesome. I am not a baker myself. I love cooking, but I found this really good gingerbread cake recipe I want to
Yeah.
try. So, is that what you do, like a cake?
I do a biscuit, but my mother does a cake, which is really nice.
Awesome. Yum. Okay. Well, I might have to come to you for tips because
Yeah,
I'm not the best
that's fine.
baker. All right. So let's talk about your role. What's your title?
I am a creative art worker.
Okay. And is are you working for a company?
Yes, yeah, I'm working for a company.
What's the company?
It's called Stern Electric.
Okay. How long have you been there?
3 years.
Okay. Cool. And can you tell me a little bit about the company? Like, it's
Yeah, it's an electrical wholesale company, so they sell lots of electrical products to lots of distributors. It's not the most exciting place, but they have a lot of interesting products and other companies within a. We work within a group of about 8 different companies. Um, so there's lots of cross work between different businesses.
cool. How big is the company overall?
As in, how would you like to know how big it is
Like,
in?
is it over 5,000 people or
Oh no, no, not over 5,000 people. 1,700, I think, spread across the country.
and then you have these groups of companies within. You work
Yeah,
with all those companies?
uh, all bar about two, I think.
Okay. And and those are broken up just basically by like what product type, something like that?
Yeah, they're in different areas of business. Some are specialists in lighting, some are in security, and but they're very cross compliant with each other. There's no specific boundaries for each business.
Okay. Are there any products I would have heard of from Stern?
No, but they deal with distribution for many of the major brands, or major white goods suppliers, people like that.
Cool.
Beco, people like that I may have heard of.
Mm-hmm. Neat. Okay. Uh, Now, can you tell me more about your day to day? Like, what does a typical day look like for you? Walk me through that.
Uh, Typical day is arrive in the morning. There's usually several emails come through from various businesses. Each business has lots of locations, so
Mm-hmm.
anyone from those locations can ask us for things. I tend to work on the more specialist projects, the more creative focus projects. So one of my key responsibilities is for a company called ELG Solutions,
Mm-hmm.
and they produce uh, lighting solutions for the hospitality industry.
Mm.
So they have their own range of products as well as supplying major manufacturers' products as well,
Okay.
to lots of big chains of companies. So most of my work at the moment is receiving emails from their marketing manager, asking for design work for new products, flyers, packaging, all sorts of things, email, imagery, website imagery. It's lots of different stuff, but that's my main responsibility at the moment. The rest of my responsibility is a lot of catalog design.
Okay.
So there's lots of updates and things like that that need to be done across the year. We produce a catalogue once every quarter. So there is a new catalogue every quarter that needs to be updated.
Okay. Well, maybe if you could choose one of those projects you just mentioned and kind of walk me through that, like maybe the catalog update would be appropriate. Like what do you need to do in order to get that all done?
I'd probably say a packaging one's probably more accurate for dimension and my use of it, if that's more helpful.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, if you'd like to work.
So
Yeah.
I usually get sent across either product idea names or ideas for the names of the products that need to be produced in order for me to start branding them. So I have to come up with branding as well. They send me images of the products as well to help with that process. So
how are those images created? Are they
they're just photographs, but they're usually taken on somebody's phone. They're not particularly good pictures.
So the products are actually manufactured first,
yes,
and then you get an image of it? Okay.
Yeah, so they buy them from another supplier who they work in partnership with. They send me photos, and then I come up with the branding, all the logos, the styling, and all that sort of thing to go with it.
That's so neat. You get to do the branding part of it.
It's sometimes on a weekly basis. There's a new brand being created for new products. So
wow.
It's quite fast moving, especially at the moment as they are bringing a lot of new products. So it's been very hectic in the build up to Christmas as well.
Yeah. So you have to get this whole thing done in a week? Is it like one a week, or there's several a week? Okay.
No, it's usually about one a week. This week I've had 3 to do this week. So, wow. But a lot of them are reworks on existing packaging that I've produced. They've just introduced a new product within that range.
Okay.
But there has been in the past, I'd say past 5 weeks, there's been a new brand every week.
Wow. So let's see. You started with getting the product names from that's from the marketing team.
Yes.
Okay. And then you also get a photo. Does that come from the marketing team as well?
Yes. Yeah. The marketing team is usually only 1 or 2 people within a business. So there's not vast teams working on it. So they rely on me to come up with a lot of the ideas and create the visuals to go with it.
And what does that turnaround look like? So you're creating the branding, so the logo, and then any packaging that goes with it, all in one.
Yeah, the packaging is usually, so if I get the names at the start of a week, we'll come up with the branding, the general feel for it in the first couple of days, and then by the end of the week, depending on if we have the packaging nets sent over to us by the manufacturers, it will be creating all the packaging, translating the styling across. Lots of playing around, seeing what works, and coming up with something tangible for the marketing team to see what the packaging will look like, because they don't necessarily understand a flat net of how it's going to look folded up into a box.
So how is that? So I know you've been using Dimension, but how is that? How are you doing that typically? Giving them a tangible.
Usually is printing it out and cutting it out, mocking it up myself in 3D, and then taking photos of it against a backdrop to send over, just to give an idea of it from all angles.
Okay, so it would involve design work in, we're using like Illustrator for that?
Yeah, Illustrator for that, yeah.
Okay, so Illustrator, and then printing that out.
Yep.
And then cutting it.
Yeah, by hand with a scalpel, and then folding it all up.
Okay, folding, taking a photo, right? Is that the next step?
Yeah.
Do you have a studio in the office?
No, I have to build one myself out of boxes and things like that. There's no studio, which is hey,
There's no white box? Oh man.
no,
Okay.
no,
Okay, so you build your own studio, you do it
yeah,
all.
build studio, yeah,
All right. And that's for one iteration of a.
yep.
So how long would you say that singular process in your whole week long process takes
Uh,
for one iteration?
it's gonna take 2 days, maybe three. Um, but it all depends on whether that's my sole focus or if I have other work to do alongside it. A lot
Mm-hmm.
of the time, there's other projects that have got similar deadlines, so it has to be dropped and picked back up again throughout the
And
day.
okay, and so that's for one concept. Do you give them a couple options, or have
Yes,
you already nailed down
yeah.
the option at
There's
that point?
usually there's two, maybe three options,
Okay.
but it depends on the product and how they want to move it forward. Sometimes I may not grasp the concept of what they envisaged for it. Um, and sometimes I may need to go back to the drawing board, but other times they may like it first time. So it can be very variable depending on the product.
Okay. And are you sending them a digital image file? Is that how you present it to
Yes,
them?
so I would send them the net as a JPEG or a PDF, and then I would send them the photographs of the mocked up packaging as well.
Okay. And then the image. Okay. All right. So how do you feel about that process?
Uh, it's quite hectic usually, and it's time consuming. It can be quite rewarding to see the product like
Mm-hmm.
as a final piece, um, but quite often, because I work in a very commercial business and there is three designers, we get seen as a cutting and sticking department rather than a serious department when we do things like that.
Yeah. So there's three other people doing this
Two other
in
people.
tandem. Okay, yeah. I like that. Seen as a cutting and sticking department.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, all right. So what is the biggest challenge there?
Uh, it's probably the the variation of projects and the short timescales for them. So you don't really get time to think about one project for too long.
Mm-hmm.
I've previously been places where you could have a week just working on branding concepts, whereas
Mm-hmm.
now I'm having to turn them around in a day or two by myself with no other input from anyone else. So
Right.
it's time pressures and also variety of projects.
Okay. Um, so what kind of let's just hone in on the lineup of tools you use
Yep.
across all your jobs. So I heard Illustrator in there,
Yep, definitely.
and then anything else you're using on a
In
regular
design,
basis?
in design on a
Okay.
daily basis. Uh,
Uh-huh.
Photoshop a few times a week at least.
Okay.
Dreamweaver if I need to edit any email campaigns or templates, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And Lightroom if I'm batch uh, editing photos or resizing, it tends to be a lot easier to use that.
Is that what you use in for catalog work?
Yeah, I can do. A lot of the images we get sent for catalogs need to be clipped, so I have to use Photoshop for that. A lot of clipping by hand around complex products, so
Okay.
that can be quite time consuming.
Okay. Okay. So what's your favorite of all of those?
Uh, Illustrator is probably my favorite
Mm-hmm.
because it's the one I use the most. Uh, I'm probably the most confident in it as well, and it allows me the most freedom to create. Whereas the others, well, apart from Photoshop, InDesign is more structured for me than it's what I use to put ideas into a structured layout rather than having a mess of an artboard like I can have in Illustrator.
Got it. Where did you learn these softwares? Did you learn them in academic setting or just?
Yeah, so in university, but very basically, and then it was all self-taught from there.
Okay. And tell me a little bit about, did you have like a full degree for graphic design?
Yes, so I have a BA honors visual communication degree.
Cool. All right. Okay, so let's go back to software a little bit. What's your least favorite software of that list?
Dreamweaver probably.
Okay, and why is that?
Uh, Coding is very much a second language, or a fourth or fifth language to me. It's very complicated. I'm trying to learn more because it's what my job dictates now. If I want to progress, I need to know this sort of thing. I got by previously using Muse, but now I found I need to know coding. So that's my nemesis is Dreamweaver, but I'm slowly learning.
Okay, and how are you learning more?
Books, using online resources like Code Academy, things like that. Just trying to build up my knowledge to help me edit things we have that are existing or to create new things.
And when you say your job is dictating it, is that just because of the role that you have?
No, I feel it's just the pressures of a graphic designer
Okay.
in 2017 and moving forward. Is any jobs that I would look at would expect an element of HTML knowledge within those roles.
Okay, cool. Are there any other things you're seeing as like things you're going to have to know in the future as a graphic designer?
Potentially 3D work. I've tried using Cinema 4D. I find it is very complicated, but a lot of job roles as well I'm looking at expect you to have a knowledge of 3D in some respect in order to take on all sorts of variants of projects. People seem to want designers to now be able to do everything rather than be good at one thing.
Yeah, many hats.
Yes,
Okay.
that's
Great. That's really helpful. Okay, so um, let's kind of put on a what if hat, and if you could create the perfect software, what would it be able to do?
all my work for me.
There you go.
No, it would be able to realistically realize my ideas in a format that other people would understand because it's very easy for me to, in my head, know what something's going to look like, but in order for my boss, who has no design experience at all, to know what it's going to look like, it's quite difficult. Whether that's brochures or packaging or signs on the side of a building. If I specify something to be finished in a certain way or things like that, it's hard to get that translated until it's finally done.
And you said your boss doesn't necessarily understand, I'm assuming flat design
Yeah,
layouts. Um, is your boss, so your boss is not a creative person?
no, not at all. No,
Okay.
definitely.
Okay. What would you say, what like in this perfect software, what kind of features would it have?
It would realistically be able to have templates that I could apply artwork to. in order to quickly create something, maybe even have the artwork laid out flat, which can then be transformed onto an object without an onerous sort of task of trying to fit it on. And it would be able to recreate textures and finishes. A lot of the work I do is print based, and in order to show paper textures and varnishes on a finished document can be very hard to explain to somebody when it's a blue page with a black logo on it, when actually it's a textured paper with an embossed logo is difficult to show.
Yeah. Actually, can you tell me more about that? So in the scenario um, where you're working on these branding, like week-long branding projects, is the final
Yeah.
product then going to go, do you have to send that file so that it's able to be printed
Yes, yeah, a lot.
afterwards?
Yeah. So
Okay.
the packaging work, I'm having to send it to the manufacturer, who will then print and cut out, ready to have the product put in it straight away.
So what kind of file is that you send them?
Usually a PDF, if it's been created in Illustrator, just because of the fact it's more suitable for them to open, because we may be using the latest Adobe software, but they may not. So
Mhm.
it sort of covers us for when we're sending it over.
And how are you currently specifying to the printer what like finish or embossing treatment needs to
It,
happen where?
if we're sending over a document, it's usually a separate document completely, which would just have the bit to be embossed or gloss varnished. And then when we send over the documents, we would have previously asked for quotes based on the finishing we wanted. Then when we send over the document, we just confirm what finishes and paper stocks we want, the weights of paper and the embossing or varnishing that we would like added to it, based on the templates we send over separately.
Okay. Now I know this is sensitive. We're looking for like examples, file examples of this kind of exchange. Do you know, would it be appropriate to share that with us? It's okay if it's not, but
Yeah, yeah, it should be.
like if I could get, the file that you used, the mock-up image that you used to
Yeah,
like get approvals on the idea, but then also what you have to send to the manufacturer, that'd be really helpful for
yeah,
us.
yeah, that's fine.
Okay, cool. Great. Okay, so all right, you're describing a pretty robust piece of software here. I like
Yeah.
it. Okay, so if you had this awesome, amazing software, what would it allow you to do that you can't currently do?
Uh, it would allow me to streamline my workflow more.
Mhm.
And like I said, it would also give me the ability to visualize things somehow before they come back as a final product.
Mhm.
It helps people to believe in my abilities, because my judgment is my word.
Mhm.
People may not understand exactly what I mean, or they think they understand one thing and it's something completely different. I've had that before, where they've been surprised when stuff's come back to them.
Hmm.
Pleasantly surprised, but surprised nonetheless because they thought it was going to be something different to what it is.
Interesting. Okay. Even though you go through the trouble of cutting this out and
Yeah,
mock
yeah,
and take
still,
photograph and everything. Okay.
yeah,
Have you explored any options in terms of like plugins or other software to help with
yeah.
this?
So with the visualizing, using Photoshop a lot, utilizing lots of free resources online for mock-ups where you can smart layers that you can replace with a flat JPEG, and then it morphs it onto an object, which is helpful, but it's very limiting based on what people have already created. So it's great for brochures, but packaging is a nightmare because some of the packaging is bespoke sizes that you're not going to find
Mhm.
files like that to work from.
Got it. So when you're working with the packaging, you already have the specific 2D layout of the
Yep.
packaging specs. Okay. All right. So again, with this perfect software, what would the impact be to your career goals, your career trajectory?
I think it would be helpful, especially on a portfolio basis, to be able to show off work without the expense of a photo shoot and things like that. Um, Especially for really high-end visuals that you want to show off to people. My only concern would be that it may make me lazy, with concerns to that they're reducing my skill set or my potential skill set by having something that does everything for me.
Mm-hmm.
That would be the only drawback I could see. But from making me look good point of view, it would probably be great.
Awesome. Yeah, do you have a portfolio site currently?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Do you update it often?
I've just updated it recently because I've just created it. So
Oh,
uh,
there you go.
I used to have a PDF portfolio, but now I have an online portfolio.
Okay, cool. What do you use for that? Is that a service or?
Squarespace at the moment.
Okay. Okay, cool. Um, all right, so let's talk about hardware. Um, what what kind of device do you work on at work?
A Mac Pro
Okay,
with two uh, Dell Ultra HD monitors
nice.
attached.
And do you have any like mobile devices, either phone or tablet, that you work from?
I have an iPhone and iPad that I work from.
Okay,
I also have a book as well, which I work from, but they're not work devices.
okay.
Um, but a lot of the time, I utilize them within my normal day-to-day work.
So give me an example of how you would incorporate the iPad into your work.
I've previously used AstroPad software to use my iPad as a tablet, graphics tablet to work with Photoshop when editing photos was the
Okay.
main reason I used it.
So sorry, does that mean you use the iPad as like a remote desktop or?
Uh, it works like a remote graphics tablet, so I
Mhm.
can use a stylus on it,
Okay,
and same way as a Wacom Intuos tablet would work, I can
got
use
it.
my.
Okay, cool. Is that is that something you do often?
Not really. My iPad's an older iPad and it doesn't have Apple Pencil support, so
Hmm.
the stylus I have isn't that accurate.
Got
So
it.
I've switched to a standalone graphics tablet instead now.
Oh, okay. Which one are you using?
Intuos 4 by
Ah,
Wacom.
nice. Yeah, that's a nice pen control
Yeah.
there. Um, Neat. And then for phone, do you use your phone in your creative work for work or for personal
Uh,
use at all?
Sometimes only mainly for photography, and to transmit files between different things, and
Hmm.
for posting my work on social media really is the main thing.
Okay. Where do you like to post your work?
Instagram
Hmm.
is the only real social media that I use.
Okay.
It seems to be the best place for creative work to be posted.
Cool. All right. Very cool. Um, all right. So you've tried Dimension, but first of all, where'd you hear about it?
I think it just came up within my Creative Cloud, and I heard about it from Project Felix previously.
Oh, you did?
Yes, so I had a quick try with it, but I didn't really have time to get my teeth
Hmm.
sunk into it properly. But when I saw Dimension had come out, I thought, "What's this?" Had a look. Formerly Project Felix, I thought, right, I'll give it a go and see what it is. And I've used it a few times since then.
And what did you expect it to do when you first downloaded it and
Uh,
launched it?
I really wasn't sure to start off with. I expected to be able, from watching previous videos with the introduction of Project Felix, I'd seen that it's for creating 3D visuals for designers. So you don't need 3D experience in order to create 3D visuals.
Right.
That
Good.
appealed. Bit done. That appealed to me for the fact that I was working on lots of packaging, things like that at the moment. So uh, I wanted to try it as a way to visualize my work in a 3D space.
Awesome. And you mentioned before that you had tried Cinema 4D.
Yes,
And tell me a little bit about that. Was that like how far did you get with it?
not very far. It was scary. There was too many tools. I watched lots of tutorials, but the capabilities are amazing. It's the understanding how the software works is not as intuitive as other softwares that I've used. Usually it's quite easy for me to pick up a software from using it, but this seemed to be a lot more difficult. Even with moving within the 3D space seemed to be a lot more complex than just dragging around an object. It was keyboard shortcuts and lots of stuff. It was a lot to get
Hmm.
into straight away.
Got
It
it.
wasn't entry level.
Okay. Um, so what was your experience with Dimension?
So I used it to create some packaging, to mock up some new light bulb packaging.
Hmm.
Uh, I I started using it. I had to get my head around some of the scaling in order to get the box the right dimensions,
Hmm.
using the scale rather than specific millimeter dimensions on it.
Hmm.
Um, Required a little bit of maths on a bit of paper, but that was fine. So I worked out what the dimensions based on scale of the box would be, and then went about applying the decals to the box. First time I didn't look at applying a material to the box. I just used the square box template to start off with,
Hmm.
um, in order just to see what it was like. Um, and it came out well, I think, the first time. The only thing that I had frustrations with was I I assumed that if I exported the full 2D net of all four sides, and when applying it, it threw it off and it didn't fit.
Mm.
And
Okay.
that that was the point I got confused until I realized that actually, if I just do one panel, then that's fine.
Okay.
And so my workaround for it is create one panel, uh, render it, and then go back to the original without moving the field of view, putting the next panel on, rendering it, and then using Photoshop to combine the two together in order to create a finished sort of
Okay.
piece with one side.
So let me make sure I understand. So it's because you can't apply more than one decal to
Yeah,
the
or
object.
yeah, or one decal that will wrap round
Right.
fluidly around the
Right.
object.
Yeah. Okay. I like your workaround. It's very inventive. um, okay. I'll hold my comments to the end, but I'll come back to that. There's some
Okay.
stuff we're working on. I'm sure you'd be perfect to bounce bounce what we're thinking about
Okay.
doing off of. Okay, so that was a frustration. Can you tell me, so how did this, did you show the work to a client, like at
Yes.
work? Okay.
Yeah.
What was
Uh,
their impression?
how the hell did you do that? Was the question. Um, it was no, it was genuine surprise about the lighting and the shadows and how realistic they were. One set of mock-ups I did second was three. I did four of the same box. I duplicated it and then rotated it each time to show each side, put them all together, and then rendered it with each different decal on each side. And it was commented on the way the shadows interact with each other from all the different boxes. Even I haven't used any backdrops on it yet. I've just used a standard white backdrop,
Mm-hmm.
and the comment was that the shadows seem to hit each other perfectly. And it even got to the point where I tried making one of the boxes polished, like a chrome effect, just to see how the reflections worked.
Yeah.
And they were perfect reflections on it, as if you were seeing the real product. So that was amazing to see. And everyone was really impressed with that. So I've been told that I have to teach the other members of the team how to use it once I'm fluent. So
Awesome. Awesome. So you're the resident expert. That's great.
yes, I wouldn't say expert yet, but nearly.
Really cool. That's very gratifying for us to hear. So thank you.
Yeah.
Um, cool. So would you say that this has an impact on your future workflows then?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. The prospects for it are great for the sort of work we're doing. It could be amazing for all sorts of applications. We have lots of products, especially from my point of view, products that need to be realized. Packaging wise is the main thing. But in the future, there may be more models we can incorporate for products that are more suitable to the sort of things we sell. So yeah, the possibilities are great for what we can use it for.
Awesome. And so a little bit about that. Do you have access to the models of your very specific packaging? Um, well, basically the packaging that's not just a plain box. Do you have a 3D
No,
object of those?
no, we have no 3D objects of those. So
Okay.
at the moment, luckily, a lot of the packaging has been just realistically a box with
Mm-hmm.
nothing special on it. But some of the boxes we have a cutout on the front to show the light bulb inside. So
Right.
that is a future thing that may cause an issue, but realistically, they can see round the fact that there's going to be a cutout in it. But that is the only sort of difficult sort of packaging we're going to be looking into.
Okay. Cool. Um, so tell me about just what did you like most about using Dimension?
Uh, the the process of applying the decals and the textures to an object, and then hitting the render button, leaving it in the background while I'm getting on with other work, and getting that little notification at the top saying your file's ready, and seeing the results of it is the most gratifying part of it. Is seeing that it's come out looking so good, from what initially in a low resolution render preview is, you think, oh no, maybe it's not quite right, and then when it comes out looking like that, it's really good.
Awesome. And did you use the little preview window?
Yes, I did. I used it on a couple of occasions, but when I got more confident with it, I didn't bother using that anymore because I knew the results would come out the way I wanted them.
Awesome. Really cool. Okay. And what did you like least about working with the app?
It was the lack of applying multiple decals was the main issue, and also the scaling of the decals when they were applied
Mhm.
to the face of the object.
Yeah,
Um, I had to by eye work out what the proportions were because they were being thrown out when the decal was applied.
got it.
Um, the only other thing is having to do a little bit of math to work out the scale of the box, but that's it's not a massive issue because I know all the dimensions, so it's just a case of working off what's the shortest edge and the scale of the other two edges based off of that. So
You
it's
don't
not
mind
too
a
hard.
little math?
No, no, it's fine.
So what would you rather, is there anything you'd rather see there?
uh, as in the dimension side of things,
Hmm.
or uh, maybe millimeter dimensions, but realistically, that or even points. So I could put in if it's 125 millimeters, I can put in 125, no matter what the value is, as long as it's proportional to the um, other things, it will be fine. It doesn't have to be millimeters, meters, centimeters,
Hmm.
pixels. As long as I get a
To put the ratio in.
yeah, the ratio
Where would you expect to see something like that? Like be able to put input that info?
within the software
Hmm.
in the same sort of location, or when you the properties of the object once you click on it would be ideal.
Okay.
In the right hand side panel where the ratio is.
Okay. Cool. Something we're working on as well. So thanks for your
Okay.
input there. Um, so you said what you like least. Was there anything particularly frustrating? Like I know that you don't like that you can't add two decals, but what were you frustrated by?
It was the scaling that was the frustration of having to re-manipulate the decal in order to make it fit the sides of the product.
Okay. Got it. And what would you say is missing besides the stuff you've already mentioned? Anything missing in the app?
Uh, the only thing I'd like is with the rendering would be to have a higher resolution render because the final image was quite small.
Mm,
Um, so it'd be perfect for web use, but if I wanted to use it on in a brochure, it's not necessarily a suitable size in order to use it for that. So a more high resolution render would be perfect.
okay. Have you worked with um, the document resolution settings in the properties panel?
I think so. I can't remember. I think I've got it set to the highest it will be, but
All right. Yeah, I'm wondering if that could help you. Um, okay. Let's see. So, let me just check my questions here. Okay. Um, can you see yourself using Dimension, or have you used Dimension for like a creative project outside of work?
uh, I've used it at work for a project outside of work
Oh, okay.
because I have the software at work rather than at home. I've used it to mock up some previous packaging that I've done in order to put in my portfolio. So
Mm-hmm.
that's been useful. I haven't implemented it into my portfolio yet, but I've used it to create visuals. But it's a very similar sort of packaging to what I do on a daily basis.
Okay. Cool. And all right, let's talk about the apps you already use. How would you, are there apps you would like Dimension to work with, like interop with,
It would be
in particular?
Illustrator is the main one.
Okay. How do you
Just
see that working?
uh, I realistically like a better way for them to transfer files across. I try to use Creative Cloud libraries,
Mhm.
but it seems to just create hundreds of libraries, and then I can't find the right one within Dimension in order to import the right artwork. So there's about 100 my libraries within a side panel that I have to try and find the right one through.
Yeah. Yeah.
So maybe a way just to have Illustrator implemented straight into it
Hmm.
would be ideal.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Good point there. Okay. How would you like to, like in a perfect world, how would you want the transfer of files to happen?
Uh, Realistically, it'd be maybe dragging it from Illustrator into a side panel, which then it's essentially using Creative Cloud libraries, but
Hmm.
in a more streamlined way. I think it
Okay.
may just be me that's
In
got
a
it
way that
all.
works.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, it
Okay.
may be me that's got it all wrong, but it's
No.
I've got lots of stuff to try and filter through where I just like one library in order to uh, put everything in.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, okay, I've got a couple more questions here. Oh, is your company at all looking at or talking about doing work in the VR and AR space?
No, not at all.
Okay. And do you ever work with motion at all? Motion
Uh,
graphics?
I have done previously using After Effects.
Mm-hmm.
I've used it to create simple vector animations previously, but
Mm-hmm.
and some 3D work. Um, but that was mainly university projects and previous employment. I haven't used it in my current role.
Got it. Okay. All right. And I've got some questions here at the end that are demographic based, so you're not
Okay.
obligated to share this information, but it stuff I'm asking just because
Yeah.
I'm curious. So how old are you?
26.
All right. And are you married?
No.
Okay. And that is it for those questions.
Okay. Cool.
Easy enough. Um, all right. Is there anything that you'd like to ask that I didn't get a chance to cover?
Don't think so. No, I think
Okay.
it's all covered.
All right. Couple things I'll mention. Have you uh, looked at all at our user voice forum?
Yes, yeah, I've had a look through it to see if other people have had similar issues to me or work if there's other workarounds for things. So um, I tend to look on there and see if there's any updates,
Okay,
maybe once a week.
great. Um, yeah, because we've got a lot of stuff in the works that
Okay.
are the frustrations you've shared. So great. And then have you heard about our pre-release forum?
No, I haven't.
Okay, we have an opportunity to offer to interested people who will be willing to download non-public builds of the app and then give us feedback on what we're thinking of putting in the app.
Yep.
So this is a
Okay.
group where especially if you're interested in a feature development, we'll say, hey Sam, can you please download this new build, try out this feature, and then we'd love to have you respond to some questions about it.
Okay.
So I'll send you those links.
Okay, that'd be great.
Um, and it's totally voluntary, but we really appreciate input and participation in those. So,
Yeah. Right.
uh, and then finally, yeah, I mean, I'll send you the gift card, and we can't thank you enough for your time. I know it's
No, this is important for me as a designer to interact with people like you to help make my life better at the end of the day.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned um, you've been told you have to teach everyone the app.
Yeah.
So if there's any ways we can support you in that, then just let us know. We do have some video tutorials that we
Yeah.
provide. And have you seen the onboarding, the guided tour onboarding
Yes. Yeah.
in the app? Okay. Yeah, if you have any insights on how to improve that stuff, we're all ears. So, but okay, so specifically on your workaround that you're doing, I'm going to bring that up to our team because they're actually working on that whole workflow right now. So if you have any visuals that can show us what you've had to do in
Yeah.
order to make that work for you, then that would be really, really helpful.
Yeah. Fine.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much, Sam. I can't thank you enough. And don't be a stranger. We're here working on it for you. So if you get
Great.
like an insight, just let us know, and we'd love to hear your feedback.
Okay. And what's the best way to contact you guys? Is it just through the forum or?
The forum's great, but you've got my email. So if
Okay.
it's a burning bush issue, just
Okay.
feel free to lob it over.
Okay. That's great. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Well, I'll go let you enjoy your gingerbread.
Thank you.
And thank you so much, and happy holidays.
Yeah. You too. Thank you very much.
Okay, cheers.
Bye.
Bye.